Based on our own research, we bring you this latest news from the pocket trawler world. Right now, there are buyers with signed contracts and hull numbers for the 2027 Ranger Tugs lineup who cannot find a single official word online about what they actually bought. One owner on the brand's own forum posted in June that he has a 2027 R25 on order, hull number in hand, and cannot find anything about the new model year anywhere. Factory staff are answering him privately, one email at a time, while the public page stays silent. That is not a company being disorganized. That is a company that has learned silence sells better than a press release, and it is only one piece of something much bigger going on inside this small Washington state boat builder right now. Because behind the quiet 2027 order book sits a strategy that most people watching the trailerable trawler space have completely missed. This isn't a story about one new boat. It's a story about a company that spent the last few years quietly building 3 separate boat brands under one roof, aimed at 3 completely different kinds of buyers, and is now pulling all 3 levers at once. By the end of this video you'll understand why that structure matters more than any single spec sheet, and why it should worry every single brand builder still trying to be all things to all customers. Let's start with the company most people think they already know. Ranger Tugs traces its roots back to 1958 and is built today by Fluid Motion LLC, a family business run by Dave Livingston and his son John, out of facilities across Washington state. The whole idea of a Ranger Tug is what the industry calls a pocket trawler, a boat that looks like a miniature tugboat, sips fuel, sleeps a family, and still fits on a trailer behind a pickup truck, because it's built right up against the 8-foot, 6-inch maximum width you can legally tow on most American highways without special permits. That's the entire genius of the brand, a yacht lifestyle on a truck and trailer budget, and it's why the Tugnuts Owners Forum has grown into a community of more than 9,000 active members who treat these boats like family. For years, the assumption was that Fluid Motion made 2 things, Ranger Tugs for cruising families, and cutwater boats, its sportier, sharper-dressed sibling under the same roof. But in 2022, the company quietly introduced a 3rd brand, Solara, described by the company as a luxury adventure line built for buyers who want to fish, cruise, and run water sports out of the same boat, with model sizes stretching from 25 to over 31 feet. John Livingston, president of Solara Boats, put it simply when the brand launched, "These boats are turnkey, built so owners can start having fun the moment the hull hits the water." And rather than treat it as a side project, Fluid Motion has kept expanding it. The current Solara lineup runs a double-stepped hull design with laminar flow interrupters for faster planing. Twin Yamaha outboards up to 300 horsepower with Helm Master EX joystick control, and pricing on models like the S310CW landing north of $400,000 fully equipped. That is a materially different customer than the family towing a Ranger Tug to a state park boat ramp. It's closer to the offshore center console buyer, and Fluid Motion built an entire brand, tooling, dealer network and all, just to reach them without touching the Ranger Tug's name. So look at what that gives the company that a single brand competitor doesn't have. Ranger Tugs covers the trailerable trawler cruiser buyer, the great loop dreamer, the retired couple wanting a floating cottage. Cutwater covers the buyer who wants a similar cruising philosophy with more of an express boat attitude. And Solara covers the buyer who wants speed, fishing capability, and water sports versatility in a package that still trailers. 3 brands, 3 personas, 1 factory, 1 parts supply chain, 1 engineering team. When a competitor loses a sale because their single lineup doesn't quite fit a buyer's needs, Fluid Motion has almost certainly built something in-house that does fit, and that buyer never has to leave the family. And it's worth understanding that this wasn't a one-time expansion, it's a pattern the company has run twice now, each time in response to a market shift. Cutwater wasn't always part of the picture. Fluid Motion introduced it back in 2011, at a moment when demand for the traditional slow pocket trawler had genuinely cooled and the Livingston family bet on faster, semi-displacement hulls instead. The Cutwater 26 and 28 launched with a patented keel-stepped hull, blending a semi-displacement shape with reversed chins that let the engine sit low in the hull for a lower center of gravity and better fuel efficiency at speed. 15 years later, Cutwater has grown into a 4-model range from 24 to 32 feet, with current listings spanning from roughly $78,000 on the most accessible model up to $453,000 for the highest spec versions, all sold through the same factory direct pricing model Ranger Tugs uses. In other words, when the traditional Ranger Tug buyer started drying up in the early 2010s, the company didn't try to fix the boat that wasn't selling. It built an entirely new brand to catch the buyer who wanted something different, then did the exact same maneuver again a decade later with Solara. That's not a company reacting to one market. That's a company that has now twice used the same playbook to avoid ever being cornered by a shifting customer base. Now here's where the story lands back on the boat everyone already knows, because the R27 is still the best-selling model in the Ranger Tugs range, and 2026 brought it real, confirmed hardware. Dealers across the Great Lakes and Midwest now list the R27 with an explicitly factory-offered twin-engine configuration, twin Yamaha F-150 outboards, replacing the single-engine setup that used to be the only option on this hull. Multiple dealer listings this year describe it directly as a new offering from the factory, and Yamaha has paired the launch with extended coverage promotions, 6 full years of engine warranty protection plus additional credits, on a boat now built around 2 engines instead of 1. The standard equipment list on this boat already reads like another builder's auctions catalog: Garmin chart plotter with sonar and radar, bow thruster, windlass and anchor package, propane stove and oven, refrigerator, hot water, solar panel, even the fenders and safety kit included from the factory. Buyers aren't quoted a base price and then nickel and dime toward a real number the way they are at plenty of other builders. They're quoted a boat that's ready to leave the dock the day they sign. And this is where the 2027 secrecy from the opening of this video actually makes sense, because it isn't isolated to the R25. Dealers are already listing early 2027 R27 twin-engine hulls as coming soon for late 2026 delivery, confirming lithium-ion battery upgrades and inverter-powered air conditioning as part of the spec before the model year has even been formally unveiled. Multiple current Ranger Tugs models, including the R23 and R25, already list LiFePO for lithium battery systems as standard or heavily promoted equipment rather than a rare add-on, a shift that lets owners run air conditioning and induction cooking at anchor without the generator running constantly. Forum members have been asking factory representatives outright whether the next model year goes fully lithium across the board, and the company's own staff have been answering those questions one private email at a time rather than putting out a lineup-wide statement. When a builder famous for splashy Seattle boat show reveals goes this quiet about what's coming, it usually means the announcement is being saved for maximum impact rather than trickled out early, and dealers already sitting on unreleased 2027 hull numbers suggests the wait won't be long. None of this happens in a vacuum either. The pocket trawler segment specifically has been described by major boating publications as quietly booming, driven heavily by interest in the Great Loop, the roughly 6,000-mile inland and coastal circuit that draws thousands of cruisers a year who need a boat under about 19.5 feet of air draft, with a shallow draft for skinny rivers, real fuel efficiency, and, ideally, a trailer as an escape hatch if life interrupts the trip. Ranger Tugs checks every one of those boxes more cleanly than almost anything else on the water, and Fluid Motion's own 2026 event calendar shows exactly how deep that community goes. A Florida rendezvous in Daytona Beach every April, a factory Gulf Islands cruise out of Port Sydney in late May, and a Northeast rendezvous at Mystic Seaport in Connecticut this August that had to cap registration once 35 boats signed up. Those aren't marketing stunts. Those are owners organizing their own vacations around a brand, year after year, which is exactly the kind of loyalty that keeps resale values high and keeps competitors locked out of a customer once Fluid Motion has them. It's also worth being fair to the rest of the field, because Fluid Motion isn't the only builder in this space, and none of its direct rivals can run this exact playbook. Nordic Tugs builds beautiful, slow, traditionally styled trawlers with a devoted following, but nothing in that range trailers, and entry pricing sits well above where Ranger Tugs starts. American Tugs builds a genuinely excellent pilothouse cruiser in the mid-30-foot range with serious offshore range, and again, it lives at a marina permanently once it's launched. Veneto's Swift Trawler line, the same family that produced the Grand Trawler flagship, competes hard on comfort and standard equipment but is built and priced as a marina boat backed by the largest boat-building group on Earth, not a driveway boat backed by a family-run Washington State yard. None of those builders can offer a buyer 3 distinct brands, 3 price points, and a trailer-first design philosophy the way Fluid Motion can, because none of them were built around the constraint from day one. That's the actual mode here, not any single feature on any single hull. Now, the honest caveats, because this story isn't as clean as a single headline. Fluid Motion is a private company, so unlike a publicly traded builder, there are no audited earnings reports to check any of this momentum against. What we know comes from dealer listings, factory press materials, and the company's own forum engagement, not independently verified financial statements. The Solara brand itself was paused for a period after its first run of boats years ago before Fluid Motion chose to revive it, so a 3-brand strategy is not automatically a guaranteed win. It clearly required a real internal decision about whether the market could support it, and the industry-wide incentive stacking currently running across the Ranger Tugs lineup, extended warranties, cash credits, seasonal sales events, is also a sign that even the strongest brand in this segment still has to work to convert buyers who are sitting on the fence in a competitive market, not just wait for demand to show up on its own. But step back and look at the shape of what's actually happening. A company most people think of as making one boat is actually running 3 brands aimed at 3 different kinds of buyers out of the same Washington State facility. Its best-selling model just got a real, factory-confirmed twin-engine option most competitors in this price range still don't offer. Lithium power is quietly becoming the standard rather than the upgrade across multiple models. And the next model year is being built and shipped to dealers, before the company has said a public word about what's actually changed. That's not one announcement blowing up the trawler market. That's a builder that figured out how to compete on 3 fronts at once while everyone else is still fighting to win on just one. And the timing of all 3 moves landing in the same 12-month window, the R27 twin-engine rollout, the quiet lithium standardization, and the pre-release 2027 hulls already sitting on dealer lots, isn't something that happens by accident at a company this size. It happens because a family that's been building boats in the same state since 1958 has learned exactly how much change a loyal customer base will absorb at once, and exactly how long they'll wait for an official announcement before they start asking questions on their own forum instead. Right now, the questions are already being asked. The answers just haven't shown up publicly yet. So tell me in the comments, does a 3-brand strategy like this actually make you more likely to trust a builder? Or does it just feel like the same company wearing different logos? And if you've got a 2027 hull number sitting in your inbox right now with no information to go with it, I want to hear what your dealer has told you, because that mystery is the thread I'll be pulling on next. Until then, keep the truck fueled up, because the whole point of these boats is that the adventure starts in your own driveway.